again and again. Heated, unaccepting of force and forced rage, who in their own wisdom direct their anger and their grief to movement, action, peace. Movement, action, peace.
We give acknowledgement to the land that we are currently on, of the Nacotchtank and the Piscataway. We acknowledge our ancestors of the Lenape, our Shawnee, the Iroquois. We acknowledge the earth, all of the earth in which minerals are pulled from without regard, to be able to even create the technology that we are using to communicate. We thank you. We offer our gratitude. We offer our love, asking for your forgiveness when we have walked too hardly on the land. We thank you for the sacrifice of all of our ancestors, of the tree people and all of the creatures, all of the animals, every last creation of God who has given their bodies so that we could be here today having this conversation. You are not forgotten. We honor you, and we will never give up the fight for you, for restoration, to renew what was destroyed. Welcome, everyone. My name is Maimouna Youssef. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Sejahari, and welcome to Arts Across America. I am excited today to speak with Emily Johnson and hear some of her stories, to hear how she interprets her art, and just get to know a little bit more about her background.
Hello, everybody. If you don't already know, here at Arts Across America, we are continuing this spring with a focus on cultural leadership and public healing, exploring topics including racial sensitivity, economic equity, mental and physical health, and land and water protection, and much more. Today, we will witness performance and dialogue as we join together in healing our country, communities, and selves.
I would like to introduce my amazing co-host, Sejahari, a playwright, a poet, an actor, a model, and activist. Sejahari Saulter-Villegas is a Blaxican multidisciplinary artist from Chicago, using his voice to uplift, advocate for, and represent Black and Brown stories in the theater, film, and fashion world. As he continues to nuance social commentary through various artistic outlets, he is interested in how performance art can be used as a tool for liberation. Welcome, Sejahari.
Thank you so much, Mumu. And introducing Mumu Fresh. She is a critically acclaimed Afro-Indigenous singer, MC, songwriter, activist, workshop facilitator, and audio engineer who's been called a quadruple threat. Oh yeah, and she's working on an album. She's been called a quadruple threat by The Roots, Black Thought, and groundbreaking by Oscar-winning artist Common. In 2021, Mumu partnered with Afropunk and Netflix and was the voice behind the ACLU Systematic Equality Campaign. In 2020, she was asked to lend her soulful voice to the ESPY's tribute to Black lives because we matter. Some of her other standout moments in 2020 include her contribution to Salam Remy's album Black on Purpose and Toby Nwigwe's album Cinco Originals. Shout out Mumu Fresh. Now let's get into Emily.
Absolutely. Emily Johnson is an artist who makes body-based work. She is a land and water protector and an activist for justice, sovereignty, and well-being. Emily is a Bessie award-winning choreographer, Guggenheim and United States Arts Fellow, and recipient of the Doris Duke Artist Award. Based in Lenapehoking, New York City, Emily is of the Yupik Nation, and since 1998 has created work that considers the experience of sensing and seeing performance. Her dances function as portals and care processions. They engage audiences within and through space, time, and environment, interacting with the place's architecture, peoples, history, and role in building futures. Emily is trying to make a world where performance is a part of life, where performance is an integral part of our connection with each other, our environment, our stories, our past, present, and future. Welcome to the stage, Emily Johnson.
Hey, thank you so much. So good to meet you both and to be here with you for a bit of time.
What does decolonization mean to you, and like how are you actively a part of that?
Yeah, that's a great question that like I kind of wish we could ask that question to everybody.
Word, for real.
Because because also it's going to take everybody, over time and over time and over time. And decolonization is, to me, a living, integral, and relationship-based process. It is land-based. It is, as I said, relationship-based. It's an Indigenous-led process that requires accomplishment and allyship and relationship. Words can become overused, right? Words can become less powerful. I think there's a way in which if we start to use language or grammars in an unexamined way, we can start to lose our relationship to the meaning behind or the meaning within that word. And to me, decolonization is action. It is ongoing, ever present, and always changing action.
How do you find that your art is an act of decolonization?
Mm-hmm. So the dances and the gatherings that I make are intertwined with processes of indigenization and decolonization, and there's no separation between them. The dances I make are intended to generate resonance, or intended to generate resonance that moves into the past as well as into the future, that creates a kind of process through which we build relationship with one another in this moment, in this extended moment of performance that is, and by that I mean like the years prior to performance and the years after a performance, and that it also builds relationship with land, with the particular place that we are gathered upon and with, and ancestors of that place, and the responsibilities I think that we have as human beings to care for and uplift and protect, right, one another and land and water and our more than human kin. That is so in the effort of creating performances that depend upon building relationships and that depend upon the ongoingness of those relationships, that's an example of decolonization. And I don't think of it as, okay, I need to do this because we need to, it's because those are the kinds of dances I want to make. I want to make dances that are in vital relationship with the world, with people, with more than human beings, with the land, with the water, with with a process toward equity and justice that reflects that reflects the love in us all, right? And the love that could be in us all. And so I make these kinds of dances, but sometimes I'm making these dances with settler-run institutions that have sometimes there can be a way in which they don't quite like, this doesn't support this, right? And so yeah. So then sometimes you have to come at decolonization as like, okay, well, let's work on right relationship. Let's work on who should you, as a settler-run institution or any institution on what is called Turtle Island, who could you and who should you be in relationship with? What Indigenous lands are you occupying? Who are you responsible for being in relationship with? And let's start there, and let's start that conversation, and let's start that acknowledgement and that respectful relationship. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, how has colonization affected Indigenous arts? I mean, I know it's different everywhere, but I'll say, from the lands that your people are from, your family is from, has it changed it? Has it, how have those dances become a little more assimilated or not? Are they still there? Have they been erased? Like, how has the colonization of those lands affected the art?
We could talk, I think, for years about how colonization has impacted Indigenous culture and lifeways. Clearly it was meant to kill us, and clearly it was meant to remove us so that our lands could be used for purposes other than our relationship to that land. So I'm from the Yupik Nation. I grew up on Dena'ina land, which is much further south and east of Yupik homeland. And I am not. I started dancing when I left what is called Alaska and moved to Minnesota, Makote, to attend university at the University of Minnesota. Dance came to me in a very personal and powerful way. And then over the course of changing my life and the trajectory of my life, because the way in which dance came to me was so powerful that I understood it in one day to be a form that is so powerful that I wanted to understand it. I wanted to understand this form and understand what it could be, what it could mean, what its like beingness in the world is, and what I could learn from that and how it could be part of that. So through the course of my time as a student in university, that became my study and my drive. When I graduated from university, my grandmother and I went to a Yupik dance festival in a village called St. Mary's. And I can't pronounce the name of the festival. I don't speak language yet. I'm hoping to. It's been a long and I haven't yet made the right space in my life to learn language. So my grandmother and I went to a dance festival in St. Mary's. We stayed with relatives there. And that was my first experience attending Yurok. And so it had a profound effect on my understanding as a very young artist just graduating from school, a profound effect on me because I was seeing over the course of the 4 days of the festival, dancing from morning until night, I was seeing dance as integral to community. I was seeing dance as a vital form of communication, as a way of sharing experience and knowledge and new forms and old forms, and there's food in the back, and there's kids running, and there's elders, and everyone is involved in the process of exchange and reciprocity. And to me, I remember being there again with my grandma and like thinking, oh, I don't see this in dance when I'm back in Minneapolis. I don't necessarily see this kind of of uh, of yeah, I guess that's how I describe it, like exchange.
It's just a part of
And
life. It's not a
yeah,
performance.
it's like, I mean, vital. Like
Yeah.
it's vital. And it is communication. I think one of the reasons that I work so hard to bring the 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 dances that I make and the way that I think about dance, as dance is everywhere in the world all the time. Dance is this relationship between what my body makes, what your body makes, the way that you're thinking now, the way that I'm thinking here across space and time, the way this traffic is moving by, the way those birds and those whales are migrating. Like there's a relationship between this movement and the intentions and the sovereignty, right? The sovereignty of all of us as moving and living beings in the world. And by that, I mean even things that we as humans don't necessarily perceive as moving, rocks, trees, etc. Like the living sovereignty and beingness of all of our kin across the world. And so I think of dance in this kind of relationship with the world. And so, like, I think that I advocate for, and I try to I drive to I drive to be in collaboration with, and also be in relationships in which the work of other Indigenous artists is consistent and is present and is uplifted and is supported and is because it's necessary. Our stories, our presence, our knowledges that relate both past and future. It's essential that is shared, and honestly, I think that it's essential that all of our stories are shared. And the way in which Indigenous voices have been discarded or tamped down for so long, right? Like I'm wearing this shirt, something else, because over during that election season, I forget which news channel it was, but they listed like percentage of voters from like Black voters and white voters and Asian American voters, and they like listed all these things, and then they were like, and something else, and it was like this marginal percentage data point. And on folks on native Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook and everyone like really took that up as like, hey, we are something else, but also don't you dare put us in this like that. Don't you dare keep separating us, and don't you dare
making it marginalized.
Yeah,
like an appendage, an afterthought, basically.
I wanted to talk about this phrase that you brought up. You said settler institution, and I think that was such a great phrase that I'm literally going to start using to describe a lot of institutions. Specifically for me, I'm in academia. I'm in my last year at NYU, actually where you're at. And I struggle, right, with this relationship between the artist and academia, and especially because it's so white and it's a colonizing space that now is starting to seek out, diverse voices. But what you find when you're creating art within those spaces, you talked about this sort of like, it feels like an oxymoron, trying to create work that is liberating for your people in a white colonized space. It also, when they have money, like they have the money for you to put on such works. And I wanted to know if you had thoughts about the relationship or the intersections between the Indigenous artists and settler institutions, and specifically academia? Like, how do you feel being and doing art in those spaces versus like in your homeland?
We need Indigenous run spaces, right? We need Black run spaces. We need spaces that are ours. We need spaces where we determine every single thing about how the organization and the collaborations and the relationships and the structures and the funding and et cetera is run. We also need the settler run institutions that have dominated what is called the US for so long to go through an overhaul, right? Like, systems change requires change at all levels of the system. So settler-run institutions are part of the system of colonization, the ongoing project of colonization, right? The ongoing project of genocide that has not ended. And so these institutions that are upholding white supremacist values, upholding white supremacist systems, upholding white supremacist funding structures, they need to people, we can use all kinds of words. They need to dismantle. They need to reorient. They need to undo and remake, right? And maybe some of them don't need to exist anymore. I'm a strong advocate of that. Like, there are some institutions that have done so much harm, that continue to perpetuate harm, that are in a refusal to meet this moment that is centered, right? We are centered on justice, on liberation, on sovereignty, right? And for institutions who either refuse or just want to do a little lip service to that, do one show, hire one Black curator, consult with one Indigenous person, like that. That's not the change that we're looking for. We're looking for a deep change.
And even like when they're people of color who are hired, it won't matter if they are still operating with a colonized mind. It won't matter what body form you come in if you haven't done the work. And it is work, because we are all conditioned, because we didn't have a choice. We've all been conditioned to a certain degree. So we have to examine our own subconscious belief systems. And I mean, my mother talks about all the time, even to the food we eat. She said, you can't have a free mind and eat colonized food, So she's like, any food that wasn't here prior to European settling, like, my mom was like, she doesn't believe in eating it. She's like, it's not good for you. You have to free your mind, free your diet, free, like, down to the clothes that you wear. Like, she's, really adamant about. So it's not enough for them to hire a diversity and inclusion team. It doesn't make a difference, if those individuals have not been doing the work already to decolonize themselves, to even be able to think from a different perspective, a more equitable perspective. Like, what does that even mean if you're still looking from a colonized lens, whatever body you happen to be in?
If you're still occupying Indigenous lands and you're not in a process and you're not in a process toward land back, if you're not in a process with the sovereign Indigenous nations upon whose lands you occupy, then you're not actually doing, the correct step. Like I said at the beginning of our conversation, decolonization is a living process. I think that there's a multitude of ways to be in a process toward and of decolonization and indigenization. There's this new dance that I want to make, or that I'm in the process of making, called Being Future Being, which is, we can vision all these better futures, we vision these better futures together. And there came a time, and a lot of my work is a process of visioning and talking about better futures with communities of people. And a little over, maybe about 2 years ago, I had this really strong desire to just be in that better future now. Like, how do we like conjure and like be in that like put ourselves into that better future. It's kind of like what you were just talking about, Mumu. Like 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 let's be there. Let's decolonize our diet. Let's be. And again, this is an ongoing process. I'm in an ongoing process. I don't know my language yet, you know, like that is like this, that
Yeah, it hurts. It
is,
hurts. Yeah.
yeah, right.
And to think it was so much went into making sure that that would be the case, you know?
Yeah. With being future being, one of the things that I'm thinking about is how do we create this speculative architecture, this architecture of the overflow, that from a performed moment where you are, if you have built something that is generating and based on right relationship with place, with land, with people, with consciousness, with these shifts, how can from that moment we create pathways where in which we as a, you know, collectively self-determined community who want to make these changes can continue, you know, and is that architecture an actual structure? Is it a series of kinships? Is it a concept? To me, these kinds of intersecting overflows of thought and of action are what can create the process toward decolonization, that that eventually come to and meet the fact that our funding structures are also based on a genocidal and colonizing structure. You know, that there are, I always forget if it's 573 or 576 sovereign indigenous nations in what is called the United States. And so there are laws and ways of governing that are from this land. That, what if we lived in those kinds of laws and governance systems? You know? This is what I think about, you know? So yeah, we can do a land acknowledgement and you can hire a diversity team. Absolutely do those things and absolutely start to build those relationships. But what we're talking about is land back. What we're talking about is reparations. What we're talking about is liberation and sovereignty and yeah.
In your bio, it reads, her dances function as portals and care processions. I wanted to know what that means.
I'm so glad that you asked this question. When I'm sharing dance through my body or through the work with collaborators, when I'm sharing story, when we're in this space of when we've gathered to experience performance together, I'm always so interested in where we collectively go, right? Where we can collectively get to. And part of that is offering and accepting care to and from and with one another in a process that can build trust and be generative. And like, what kind of portal space can that open up? You know, what kind of future can we move into when we're in those kinds of respectful and caring relationships? And that depends upon people coming together. It depends upon people coming together and like maybe shifting a thought or two, or shifting a perspective or two, or meeting somebody, or thinking about the land beneath you right now, and how you are in relationship with that land, and what is then your responsibility. Have you ever said hello to that land? Have you ever said thank you to that land? And then like, from what can grow from that kind of care forward? And my friend Karen Reckle, friend and dear colleague, and we work collaboratively together on so many processes, and she and I co-think together on a fire that I host here at Abrams Art Center on the Lower East Side in New York City, in Lenapehoking. And these fires have been running since 2017, and they're called constellatory mappings in light and dark matter. And it's a place where the fire is centered, and it's open to everyone to come. It's outdoors, of course. And over the course of this COVID time, the fire has really changed shape, right? There was this time where we couldn't gather together. And so Karen and I sent invitations for people to light their own candle. And we sent thoughts or provocations for people to think about, how do we think about gathering across distance? How do we think about extending care and love to one another through this time of emergency into what Adrienne Maree Brown calls an emergent time, right? And like, how does an emergency like a pandemic or an emergency like ongoing process of colonization, how does that not stop us or make us be hard or make us hate, right? How do we instead move through with care and like a deep, deep love for one another that brings us all forward, right? I guess to think about that, and that makes me think about processions. That makes me think about like processions that aren't necessarily processions that are like this, you know. It's like Karen has been thinking about this, or we've been thinking about this a lot, like how processions don't necessarily need to be linear, and that it immediately, you know, puts me into this summer and being like, you could be on the street in New York City and protests for Black Lives Matter were everywhere and like snaking through the city in this like such this beautiful like way that was just ongoing, and it was like the extension of love and the extension of power and the extension of like necessary. I don't know, maybe you have words to offer here, because it was like, that's what procession makes me think of, like
it's community and family, and I get what you're saying is reaching in different directions. I love how you like you speak with your body.
Yes.
Your words are all in your body.
I love like your like emphasis on building community with one another, as important as building community with the land in which we exist on. But through both of those, community and relationship, kinship seems like so important. And during the COVID times, like relationships, I feel like have been the most tried. You know what I mean? Because of the distance. And so I think it's so dope that you are finding new ways to keep building relationships and communities with our land, with our people, amidst a time that it's really hard to do that, you know? So I appreciate that.
And if we could create a portal from our different houses, we could all hug each other through the portals.
Right. I guess that's what this is, right?
Yeah, this is a COVID-free hugging portal.
No, I appreciate you both so much, and like this energy and like what you're bringing to these conversations, and to this conversation in particular. And
thank you so much.
I want to hear more about your work.
Okay. I know, I can't wait to collaborate. I love what you do. It's so necessary. It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm excited to see more. Well, thank you everyone for watching. This has been Arts Across America with myself, Maimouna Youssef, also known as Mumu Fresh, my amazing co-host Sejahari, and the incredible body-based, multidisciplinary phenomenon, Emily Johnson. Thank you so much for just sharing your heart with us today.
Peace.
Until next time.
I'm always trying to figure out how we can notice each other a little more and respect each other a little more. The 4 equal parts of shore will manifest differently in each place that we go to because it is about who shows up and where we are. The reading was just this beautiful, beautiful beginning. It was really emotional. I was not really expecting that as much maybe, and also really joyful. It was just really exciting to share that first story outside. I think that once I was maybe buried under a tree and my arms became the limbs, and I felt hundreds and hundreds of years worth of rain and sun on my skin. I think I remember that tree in my bones.
The piece is incredibly set and structured and tight, and yet within that there's an incredible amount of freedom. I know I have to be here, I know I'm doing this, but within that I'm always trying to make it new. It has to mean something to me. It just felt like such a gift, really, as a performer, to be given so much leeway, really. How do we actually connect to people that are not just in the dance world, that don't know about dance? Anything that attempts to bridge those worlds, I'm behind. And I think all the elements that Emily has brought in, we connect to people that are not just in the dance world.
Can you help me unload this truck first?
We're doing park cleanups and planting. It's sort of trying to include the community and involve the people more than just putting on a show.
And personally, I've never seen anything like it, so this was a whole new experience for me, and I just was like, I think totally going outside of the box and really bringing lots of aspects of life into it, which I think is really awesome.
And everybody's so open to us, and we're not from here, but I feel like we kind of are, because we're a part of it now. And I couldn't be happier to be a part of it.
We come together, so it's like a family. You're building cultural connections.
I think it has to do with dancing because you're moving around and you're expressing your feelings by loving the earth and by keeping the earth safe and, stuff like that.
We're at Paul's farm, Paul and Chris's farm, Bucksdale Farm, where we're having shore feast. So we're getting set up right now, picking strawberries for when people come. They can eat some delicious strawberry shortcake later.
It's been wonderful to share this work with you all and to share this moment with you all. It's been amazing. Put your recipe in the recipe box. We're going to make a zine and mail it to all of you. Have a great time.
I brought a dish called casamiento, which is just rice and beans. But in El Salvador, which is where my family's from, we call it casamiento, which is Spanish for matrimony. So it says the rice and beans got married together.
I have to reevaluate my definition of dance because I think Emily might be dancing all the time.
She's breaking down those barriers between what has been the food world, what has been food justice world, what is the arts world.
Yeah, grab a piece.
The performance itself left so much space for us as human beings to bring who we are into it and our questions and our yearning. This is unlike anything I've ever experienced in terms of art.
I feel very honored to have made something with people, There's so much conversation, so much joy happening there in the barn. This is an amazing day. I think that then moves out into the world in different ways, and yes, that does make life better.